What's up, wrestling fans? Two Bros Wrestling Show coming at you post Royal Rumble 2025. Kevin, how you doing, brother?
I am doing well and ready to talk about Royal Rumble in our main event. Doug, we had some predictions we got right, some that no one predicted.
Right?
Uh,
Absolutely not.
we had surprises. We had surprises by what we weren't surprised by, if that makes sense. I think that in addition to the folks
Yes,
that were expected, some of the folks that were not expected surprised us. And then there were folks that we thought we would see them and didn't. And we're going
I
to
didn't.
talk about all of it, including the implications of what it means for WrestleMania, as well as just our reviews of match by match, what we thought of the night, Doug. But before we go there, let's hit that opening bell.
Let's do it.
Because we are now officially on the road to WrestleMania, let's start by the big news out of WWE headquarters this week. WrestleMania adjacent, I guess you would say. We got news on the WWE Hall of Fame. Triple H will be this year's headliner, and that was revealed to him during a corporate town hall when HBK and The Undertaker interrupted the proceedings to say they'd made the executive decision that the WWE's chief content officer was due for induction. Doug, I'm not even going to debate this one. Obviously, Triple H is worthy. For me, the coolest and greatest thing about this was seeing that video and realizing that WWE meetings apparently include a stage, a gorilla position, and entrance music.
I thought that was hilarious. Like, wait a
I,
minute. Is this really how their meetings go?
we need to get those jobs, man. I want to work there.
Oh, it's hilarious. Love it.
I want entrance music in a gorilla position for all of my Zooms from now on. That was just too cool.
If only I could have entrance music every time I'm on a Microsoft Teams or a Zoom call. Maybe some pyro going off behind me.
Congratulations to Triple H. Well deserved. We'll have more,
Absolutely.
obviously, on other inductees as they get announced throughout WrestleMania season. Moving on, we're going to do some AEW news just because we're going to be so heavy tonight in WWE news because of the Rumble. But it's been widely reported for a while about Tony Khan having taken a step back from his creative duties to concentrate on the business side of things. For the most part, this was perceived as a good thing, a needed step to give Tony a break, to get a creative reset. But apparently now, though, there is word that maybe he is stepping back in a little bit. To date, some of the things that have over the last few months really got some praise for our AEW have been run by others. John Moxley, for example, has apparently been running the whole Death Riders storyline. Meanwhile, RJ City has been the creative force behind the scenes of the Tony Storm Mariah May storyline, which has been fantastic. These have been two of the better things AEW has done in a while. No Tony involvement. But now we get word that Tony is, quote, in the weeds again, more so than he's been for a while. So good, bad, and different on this, Doug?
You know what? I think RJ City, first of all, is hilarious.
Hilarious.
Did not realize that he was a booker and creative, but that's great. And, I really like what's going on with the Death Riders, except for, I've been very vocal about Wheeler. So other than that, I can't really complain. And I think things have been better with Tony in a more executive role than in a creative role. But, well,
yeah, if we start seeing a dip in the creative, and we'll have to lean in and see whether or not that might have to be the boss's fingerprints back on things, when maybe it was okay to let some of your talent actually take over the creative side for a bit. Tony needed a break on the creative side, so let's hope he's ready and recharged if he is truly getting back involved, and that things don't start swinging the other way.
This is true because Tony's been in charge of creative for quite a while, so
yeah,
there's been good AEW in the past.
Absolutely.
So maybe he just needed a refresh.
We all do.
Absolutely.
I know someone who definitely needs a refresh now, and that takes us to our next story, which is an injury update. a scary moment this past week on Raw
Oh yeah.
on Netflix when JD McDonough attempted a moonsault on the outside during the World Tag Team title match, hit his head on the corner of the announce table viciously. Kudos to him just for finishing that match, but reports from the arena were that he collapsed the second he got behind the curtain. He also was rushed to the hospital that night. He has since updated his condition online, let folks know that despite the violence of the head snap on the table, it
Right?
was
It's so
actually,
bizarre.
I know, I watched it several times. I don't actually see
Hmm.
how he hurt his ribs more than he hurt his head, but apparently broken ribs are the worst part of it. The fact that those broken ribs then punctured his lung. Obviously, we saw he was not in Rumble last night, but he probably will miss all of Mania season now, as he says he will be on the shelf for a few months. Truly, though, when you see that on a replay, it's a wonder it wasn't even worse than that.
And can we talk just a minute about the resilience of this dude? Because he is not killing the business, right? He goes on and finishes the match after he's broken ribs, punctured a lung, and then I've seen some like fan footage from like a corner. It's like, when Taker finishes the match at WrestleMania. Oh, you lost an ear.
I did.
And he comes up the ramp, and does his salute and everything, and then gets behind, goes into Gorilla, and then boom, collapses. This kid did the same thing, man. Got backstage, and then goes down.
Yeah, and that's
So
after like another 5-6 minutes in the
yes,
match, taking
with a
bumps.
with a three broken ribs and a collapsed lung.
Yeah, kudos to you, McDonough, for being a man among men. But now go heal, go rest up, and
Absolutely.
that was not a disaster. That could have really been a disaster. Doug, last week we talked about a bunch of departures, and we've got one more to add to that list this week as Maria Kanellis has said so long to AEW. Maria's contract actually expired towards the end of last year, but she worked out a short-term extension with Tony Khan, which now has ended come end of January. Maria had primarily been used as a manager, on-screen manager on the ROH brand. However, she's always been really vocal, especially about wanting a larger creative role. She was once
Mm.
head of ROH's women's division in the pre-Tony Khan days. Obviously, Tony and Maria were not able to come to any sort of agreement as to what a creative role might look like now, and so they're departing ways. And though Maria is departing, her
Or
husband, Mike Bennett, is still under contract with the promotion.
or is it an Alexa Bliss type swerve where Maria is still in charge of creative?
Hey, Maria was very talented, both on and behind the screen. So maybe there's still a chance that she lands. Who knows? Maybe Impact. I mean, there's
Hmm.
opportunities out there.
Absolutely.
Vice TV announced this week that its successful Dark Side of the Ring franchise will be returning for season 6 beginning March 25th. So mark calendars for that. The topics this year are going to be Hell in a Cell, Big Van Vader, Tony Atlas. So expect a lot of stuff about shoes and feet. Ludwig Borga, Billy Jack Haynes. Watch it. You'll see. I know they'll have to go there. Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert, Superstar Billy Graham, Daphne, the original Sheik, and Muhammad Hassan. So those are some pretty intriguing topics. A lot of backstory behind each of those. I'm already interested.
Same. Can't wait for it.
Speaking of wrestling programming, Doug, let's see your interest in these.
All right.
WWE this past week has announced 2 new shows. First, we have LFG, which stands for Legends and Future Legends. The AE series is a reality show that has former superstars Bully Ray, Booker T, Mickey James, and The Undertaker mentoring wrestlers who are competing for a WWE contract.
So it
WWE's
has nothing to do with like a group of wrestlers trying to put like a dungeon raid together. They're not looking for group, which is what I thought LFG was. Super confused about that. My bad.
you know, I mean, super confused about just the idea of the show concept. It's not bad. It's very typical. It's also a show that WWE has done before in a variety of ways. You can go all the way back to the original Tough Enough,
Yep.
or most recently the John Cena short-lived one-season series of Next Gen. Then, of course, the original incarnation of what was NXT. They've gone this way before, but we'll see. It could be entertaining still, and we'll find out on A&E beginning just in a few weeks. February 16th is when that drops. The one I am actually more interested in is the one they announced last night during Royal Rumble. And that was WWE Evolve. So
Yes.
Evolve was one of wrestling's top independent promotions in the 2000s. It was the spiritual successor, really, of Ring of Honor in many ways. WWE purchased Evolve back in 2020, and since then, pundits we've been wondering if they were going to do anything with the brand, if they were just buying it for the library. And now, 5 years into it, we don't have a ton of answers, but we know when we will find out. So last night they said that Evolve will start on March 5th and stream on Tubi, which is an interesting new relationship for WWE. Tubi is one of the largest fast streaming services. And so in concept, it looks a little bit like maybe a refreshed Level Up, where it's not a reality series. It's a traditional wrestling program with a whole new roster of talent and unknowns, serving as a feeder up to NXT, which they are definitely elevating to a third brand now that this is now the developmental brand. And then hopefully from beyond that to Raw and SmackDown. But who is on this? Will it be Performance Center kids like Level Up could be? Will it be NIL signees, which WWE now has a ton of? Maybe it's how they're going to showcase their new WWE ID program that they announced with the partnerships with various independents, or it could be just also a bunch of unsigned independent wrestlers that they feature in a real revival of what Evolve once was. Who knows? It could even be a combination of all of that. Either way, I am actually intrigued by this. And really one of the more intriguing options or reasons I'm intrigued by this is the announcement that March 5th being the first is, if you check your calendar, that's a Wednesday at 8:00.
Oh, look at that.
I
Look
mean,
what they did.
and that's what they're going to do every Wednesday night at 8:00. They're going to drop a new episode because it's a streamer and Tubi is a ad supported streaming service that's most people might not even realize that they have. It's not like WWE is trying to start a Wednesday night war here. If anything, I think it's just another way for WWE to pretend not to care about AEW, all while simultaneously doing everything they can to drive Tony Khan insane.
Yes.
I really think they're trolling him. Is
They're
honestly what I
absolutely
think.
trolling them. What can we do to mess with Tony now? Hey, I've got it. Let's run Evolve on Wednesday nights.
On Wednesday, we can drop it anytime because it's on Tubi. People are just going to stream it at their leisure. But if we do it on Wednesdays at 8:00, he's going to lose his mind, and they think that's funny, and it is kind of funny.
Yes.
But I'm interested in this one, Doug. I don't know about you. I'm actually more interested in this than I am the reality series. A whole new wrestling program of young kids and independent wrestlers could be a lot more fun.
Absolutely, and God knows we could use a little bit more wrestling in the week to watch.
Hey, I'm gonna find that hour somewhere. And finally, congratulations to one of wrestling's true good guys, Big E. Big E is getting some of that Marvel money, as this week saw the premiere of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man on Disney Plus. The animated series it features every New Day's parents' favorite member of the New Day, voicing one of the main characters. Way to go, Big E. All right, Doug, are you ready to talk Royal Rumble?
I'm ready to rumble.
I am very ready to rumble. Indianapolis was ready to rumble. It was quite the show. Before we get into spoilers, though, for those who are just watching to see whether or not it was a good show, bad show, what we thought in general, I will say, if no other reason, you have to watch Rumble because of the implications it has on Mania. to me, it was 2 Rumble matches, 2 title matches, and nothing was bad. So there's no reason not to watch it. There was, in my mind at least, 1 Rumble match that was okay, 1 title match that was okay, and then a title match and a Rumble match that were excellent.
Yes, that is a great summarization of 2025's Royal Rumble. Nothing offensive, and some really amazing things. Some really painful things to watch too. My
So
goodness.
with that, then we got 2 thumbs up. We'll get into spoiler territory, but before we do, we'll just say this: that while the action itself was definitely worth seeing, the implications for Mania is definitely worth seeing. The implications for Mania can be debatable. That is, your mileage is going to vary on that. And with that, that might be a good way to lead into the first match, and that is
Let's
the
do it.
Women's Royal Rumble. We're in spoiler territory now. Before, Doug, we talk about the women's match specifically. Let's talk about something that really weaves through both these Rumble matches, and it was the first thing that I noticed, and it's the first call out I had on my notes. I want to say kudos for the amazing work of the graphics team, the production
Mm-hmm.
team, the little infographics for both Rumble
Yes.
matches really, to me, added so much. It gave a sports-like presentation, but it also helped tell stories throughout the match themselves
Mm-hmm.
and let me, know everything that was happening on the screen. A lot happens in a Rumble, and you can see how many people were active, how many had been eliminated, what number was up next.
Yes.
I've never seen that before.
I don't think they've ever done that before, and I think it's great because those Rumble matches just those battle royals can get so complicated and so confusing and so chaotic. This kind of like tied everything together and had a through line through the entire it told a story at the bottom of your screen, and I really really liked it. At any moment you could glance down and go, okay, this many people are out. We're at this number. Okay, so there's this many left. It was great.
It was great. It needs to be a permanent edition that they need to have
Mhm.
every single year. Love that.
Absolutely. Yes.
We started off the first two being Io Sky, Liv Morgan. Both of these women would go deep into the
Mm.
match, have
Yeah, they
really good
would.
showings. We didn't have to wait long either for NXT contestants to show up. I know we discussed last week that was a possibility. Roxanne Perez was third out. I was proud to have called, I'm going to pat myself
Hmm.
on the back, 3 of the 4 NXT women
Yeah, you
that
did.
was in the
Yeah.
match, 3 of the 4 I had. So the others that joined Roxanne were Lash Legend, Jada Parker, Stephanie Valkyr, and Julia. I called all but Valkyr, which I should have guessed her as well. But
Yeah, I know. Should have we both should have thought about that.
if nothing else, man, that was a big show out for NXT's women's division. I know we often say, and even within WWE, you'll hear them often say on camera that the NXT women's division is maybe the most stacked women's division in all of
Mhm.
professional wrestling. They were showing off some of that talent last night. That was just the
Yes.
tip of the iceberg for what is actually at NXT. But to get 4 NXT participants in the ring, I thought was fantastic.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was great.
Now, we did almost have a botch early on that could have really derailed things because it was really close to the beginning when there wasn't too many other people in the ring to distract. But Lyra Valkyria came in and had almost immediately a wardrobe malfunction with her
Yes.
top not wanting to stay tied up. Fortunately, ringside officials were quick to attend to her, seemingly resolved the issue fast. Let's
And
talk
so
some
was
cool spots.
Liv.
Go ahead.
Liv was on that too with the quickness to like do a little like elbow to like take her
Oh,
down and put her in
yeah.
the corner. So yeah, and it just like she didn't miss a beat. She like kind of like did a move to take her out, and then basically giving her a here, get over here and get that fix kind of bump, so that ringside officials could get in there too and get her going again.
And then let's call out again that production team that was on fire all night, because as soon as Liv was smart enough to do that and get her off into a corner,
Away
allowing
from
off,
that. Yeah.
yeah, and we went from a full hard shot to like maybe 2/3 of the ring shot from the hard camera,
Hmm.
and it made everything seamless, which was again looked just top notch considering that
It
that could
really
have derailed
did.
things when you don't have that many people in the ring yet.
Yes, absolutely.
I want to talk some of the cool spots of the match, Doug, because we know that the winner is important. We're going to get to the winner, the Iron Woman, all of that stuff. But sometimes it's the moments in the match that people remember, and it could be the only thing that they remember you by if you're not in very long.
Hmm.
Ivy Nile had a real nice showing last night. She did that nice double suplex that showed off her strength. Zelina Vega got a great code red spot from the top rope
Oh, yeah.
on Jordan Grace, who I would now like to pause and maybe talk about some Jordan Grace. So Jordan came out number
Yes.
19. It was her second Rumble appearance, but this is notable because it was her debut as a
Hmm.
WWE signee. That fan pop.
Yes. Yes. That fan pop. And I love it how she kind of she comes out with the sirens like she's a Steiner. I love that.
I mean, people could say what they will about the audience for Impact or the relevance of Impact, but people knew who she was. The
Yes,
wrestling
they did.
fans knew who a Jordan Grace was and appreciated the fact that they were seeing her make her WWE debut. Jordan also had one of the spots of the match when she got to show off her amazing strength with that Death Valley driver on Piper Niven.
Hmm. Yes. That just says it all right there. Death Valley Driver, Piper Niven,
On Piper
Jordan.
Niven.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some of the other surprises outside of Jordan, who was expected, and then the NXT appearances we talked about earlier. We did get a return for Alexa Bliss. Again, big pop, really
Big
big pop.
pop. Yeah.
It
I love at one point where she mouths Bliss's back, baby.
Interesting. She came out to her original entrance music, but was dressed
Hmm.
in her fiendish gear in tribute to Bray Wyatt, who, I mean, it should be noted, Bray and Bliss were close, obviously, but
Hmm.
she's been gone so long that this is actually her first time back on screen
Oh
since we
yeah,
lost
since
Bray.
he's that's so
Yeah,
true. And she had the Fiend Forever jacket
yes,
on.
and she looked
Yeah,
great. She
she
looked
really
great,
did.
and it's been
No
2 years.
ring rust. Yes, 2 years, no ring rust. Crazy.
Fans booed when she was eliminated, which says that they were eager to have her back. I think it was maybe even Jordan Grace that had eliminated her, which maybe they might have wanted to had a heel eliminate Bliss since that
What
was going to get
was
booed.
was it Liv that eliminated her? Because I was thinking that would be that leads into a maybe feud with the two of them now.
Maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe I got.
Was
Though
Jordan's
that would be quite the feud because there's some similarities in
right? You got two
size
little
and look there.
Harley Quinns running around in a feud.
I don't dislike the sound of that at
No,
all.
sir.
Um, we also got Trish Stratus, and then at number 30, kind of a surprise there in Nikki Bella coming back, which means she was
Hmm.
backstage with John Cena at some point, which was kind of interesting.
Right.
Both Trish and Nikki got heroes welcome back kind of receptions, which was nice. For
Eh,
me, Doug, though, the women's match was as much about who didn't return as those folks who did. Because,
right.
I mean, okay, Jade Cargill was heavily rumored and possible, storyline developments with between her and Bianca. Maybe she just wasn't ready in her rehab, which is understandable.
Hmm.
Maybe less understandable for me though is there wasn't a single TNA talent that was used in the women's match, and most surprisingly, and I think maybe most disappointing, is many folks expected Becky Lynch to return, and she did not. Were you surprised at all that Becky wasn't used? And was there anyone
Uh,
else you expected to see that you did not?
I was very, very disappointed that we didn't get to see the man. I was certain that she was going to be back. Um, I expected Jade too. I really did. So I'm not sure where that's fizzling out, or if they actually work Jordan, because I'm not sure where Jordan's going to be working if she's NXT, because I think she was eliminated by someone from NXT if I remember correctly. But I'm not sure if she'll be working NXT or she goes straight to Raw or SmackDown. And if she goes to Raw or SmackDown, they can immediately insert her into what I believe would have been the Jade Cargill role in the Bianca Belair and Naomi situation there, since she's hugging Naomi and everything when they're in the ring, and Belair's a little red about it. So
Yeah, she
not sure where
did.
that's gonna go, but
Yeah, I think that there, all indication are that there's nothing wrong with Becky. There's no reason why she's not back. There's never been any announcement that she was retiring or that she wasn't ever coming
hmm
back. And just the fact that they produced her to be in the new opening for the new Raw on
hmm
Netflix is more indication that she is coming back. But the fact they didn't bring her back at Rumble is a bit perplexing and I think a bit disappointing in some ways. We did have a obvious return that was another big deal that was advertised, and that was Charlotte Flair, who did come in at number 27. Much like Bliss, it's been almost 2 years for her as well. More like a year and 3 or 4 months,
look,
actually, a year and a
somebody
half.
say like over a year in rehabbing
Yeah.
her injuries.
But Charlotte is definitely back. Nia Jax came in
Mm.
and for the second straight year, got to be the role of the heavy. I hate that I was right on that one, but at least Doug, she did your favorite move, that being the Andre the Giant Battle Royal big person spot that you so
Hate
love.
that. I hate that move. Although, I do have to shout out Nia because I always am down on Nia. I love it when she comes out and nobody is, really happy that she's there. She's getting booed. She's getting all this great heel heat. And the expressions on her face, she's just working it like a classic heel, which I had to laugh at her expressions as she's walking down this incredibly long like road. I mean, it had a big curve in it, and
It was an incredibly long road. Hey, I'll give Nia credit. She is better than she used to be, and she is what a heel should be, and that's someone
Mhm.
that no one likes to see. She doesn't try or doesn't attempt at all to be the cool
Nope.
heel. She is fine for her role, and I mean, I'll begrudgingly say it. She's become pretty good at that role.
At the role. Yes.
If you weren't going to have Jade in there to be the big monster beast of the Royal, and if you didn't give it to Jordan Grace, which we thought could be the case, Nia getting the most eliminations and being the Andre makes some sense just based on size and her current position.
I really felt Lash Legend could have also fit that role too.
Yes, she could,
I
man.
was
That
expecting
lady.
more from her. That they didn't let her get in what I thought she could have got in with that size and that power that she comes with.
She definitely has an impressive look about her. They could have put
hmm
that role on her. Maybe where it's her first Rumble, it was just
Sure.
like, let's get her out there. I was surprised. We get down to the final four. Doug, we had half of it right. The other two that we had in the final four did not even end up in the Rumble. So what are
Whoops.
we going to do? But we
Yeah.
ended up with Nikki and Nia Jax, Charlotte Flair, and Roxanne Perez. Very surprising to see that it was Flair and
hmm
Perez as the final two, but that is just a great compliment to Roxanne. Um, we called it right though, as far as the winner. It was
Yeah.
Flair. Two bros being Nostradamus of wrestling that we are called that one. Actually, so many people called that one.
Right.
Sometimes,
If
especially when you didn't get Becky in there, it probably was the right move. The match, okay, just let's overall, we've done a lot of these at this point, reviews of Royal Rumble matches. We've spoken in the past, Doug, that most Rumble matches aren't classics, most aren't disasters, most fall
hmm
somewhere in between just because they go for 60 minutes, 70 minutes, and therefore it's a mixed bag always of good and bad. To me, this was one of those that is the typical Rumble match where it ends up being just somewhere in the middle, okay. Um,
Yeah. So yeah, somewhere in the middle. Okay, I'm happy that they don't rely so much on legends and well, diva legends at this point. I'm cool with bringing Trish back, because
Yeah,
Trish can go. Yeah, I
she
think
went.
Michelle McCool could go. You
She
know,
could.
give her a spot. But no Michelle McCool. Plenty of girls from NXT like that. Overall, it was a good Rumble. It was a good Rumble.
It was some even pacing for me that kind of dragged things down a little bit. And to me, also the ending, because there was no Jade, because there was no
Mhm.
Becky, it was pretty obvious who was going to win. And
Yeah.
therefore, there wasn't the same drama that you'd like at the end of a
Hmm.
Rumble match. For me, though, the performer of the match was easily Roxanne. Sometimes
Yeah.
you win without being the winner, and Roxanne Perez was the winner of this. She got the rub
Hmm.
for not just being there at the end with Charlotte, but she was also this year's Iron Woman and is
Yep.
actually the all-time now Iron Woman.
Hmm.
She spent the most time in the ring of anyone in women's Royal Rumble match history. This is how you make a star in a Royal Rumble format, and there's been word for a while that she's ready for the main roster, that they're moving her up. If you're going to move her up and insert her immediately into Mania season, if she's truly done at NXT, this is how you do it. Have her one of the
Hmm.
final two and have her break the record for the longest time spent in there. Fans, if they didn't know who Roxanne Perez was before, they sure as heck
Now,
know
yeah.
who it is now. Um,
Now you know. Yeah.
Outside of that, and maybe like you say, Jordan Grace, Naomi, Bianca, there wasn't a ton of storyline seeds planted in this one that I caught, like there
There really
sometimes is.
there really wasn't, because I one of the reasons I really love it, not only because it starts the road to WrestleMania, but because of all the seeds that they start to sprinkle around on the road to WrestleMania and start to generate these storylines. And I don't think we got to really see that.
I think we get a lot more in the men's that we'll talk about later than we
Mhm.
did in the women's, which is one of the reasons why, to me, the women's was just okay, including the lack of drama at the end. Let's talk about Charlotte as a winner. I know that's divisive because Charlotte can be divisive, but I'm actually fine with it. She is a flair. She is talented.
Mhm.
Yes, she wins a lot, but we haven't seen her in a while. So maybe it didn't have a whole lot of drama, but big picture mania implications, it could lead to a great match. Who do you think Charlotte will challenge for the title? Which is a better match for Mania? Rhea Charlotte or Tiffany Stratton Charlotte?
I thought about this a lot last night, which, my brain was going after Rumble. And I'm thinking Tiffany Stratton may be the way Charlotte goes. I know before we were talking, how great it would be to see, Charlotte v. Mommy, Queen Bee versus, Mommy round two. But I think she's going to go for Stratton. And I think that could be good, really good for Tiffany. I mean, I know she's champion now,
Yeah.
but I still think it will be really good for Tiffany.
And
More
obviously,
so than,
things can change because I imagine we will have an Elimination Chamber women's match that
yes.
could change up Charlotte's options. But like
Hmm.
you, at first, I'm thinking the money is the two big ladies, the two rivals reigniting that rivalry,
Yeah.
and this time doing it in front of a bigger crowd than what they did the last time they had the Mania match in the Performance Center. On the other hand, we have seen Rhea Flair before. We've not seen Tiffany Charlotte before, and while last week I'm pretty sure I said that it's not a match that has anything on it right now. There's no history, or like they have a couple months to build that story to make it a big deal. And I'm with you. I think that just because we've not seen it before, even if Tiffany ends up losing
Hmm.
to Charlotte, just being in a main event with Charlotte
That's
Flair.
it. Who needs that rub more, that flare rub more right now? Definitely not mommy. Mommy's good.
Yeah, win or lose, Tiffany wins here if she
Yes.
gets picked by Charlotte Flair. Let's be honest.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that's the way we'll go. Um,
Yeah.
let's talk about the next match, Doug. Obviously, we had two title matches on the bill to break up the Rumble matches. We had the Tag Team Championship match, 2 out of 3 falls, DIY, who are your champions defending against the Motor City Machine Guns. First, I want to say I love 2 out of 3 fall matches because it can add an extra layer of drama and storytelling when done right. I say when done right because I hate how the 2 out of 3 fall stipulation is almost always misused, as it was here, in my opinion. That first fall, if you have a match between 4 participants and it was a basic match and it goes 15 minutes is maybe what you would expect from these teams, then that first fall should be pretty close to 15 minutes because that first fall should play like a normal match. And then after that, you can make the other falls 2 and 3 come quicker because you could say, well, now their back's against the wall, so they're making mistakes, or they're tired, or they're worn down, or they're injured, and that's why those last ones come. But the first fall should always be about what a normal match would be. And time after time, bookers will take that first fall and have it happen in 5 minutes so they can get to falls 2 and 3. And that already, to me, always throws off 2 out of 3 fall matches when they do that.
Always throws, although I did love the first fall, the false tag, and I thought it was very clever. But
I like that part of it. Yeah,
this whole match felt like a televised match. Like you, I love the triple falls stipulation, and I also love DIY and the Motor City Machine Guns. I thought it was great that Sabian and Shelley get to come out in front of like 60,000 plus people in this huge arena, and just drink all that in and perform in front of everybody, and plus the pay-per-view audience. But it just so much felt like a TV match. It's like these guys never got out of first gear, and I was confused about that until the end. And then I was like, okay, that's why we're here.
So that first fall, I liked it too. I thought it was clever. But do you think in a large arena that maybe the audience didn't see the intricacies that those of us who were watching on a TV screen saw? Or do you think it was just the crowd was still coming down from the Women's Rumble because that first fall came and there was like 0 reaction from the live crowd?
Zero. Yeah, there could have been a lot of confusion with the crowd, but the crowd was not into this match either. The crowd was.
Are they not into the Machine Guns yet? I know you've talked about that before. That for as much as we, the hardcore fans, love the Machine Guns, they haven't necessarily connected at them. And then maybe even the same could be said with DIY. Although I think at this point fans connect more with DIY. Yeah. But they were very quiet. The Skull and Bones from the Motor City Machine Guns looked great and even things up at 1 fall apiece. And despite that second fall being the faces going over, there was not very much heat on that one either. There was no crowd reaction at all. The crowd woke up a bit, I thought, for the third and final fall. And then came the ending with the Street Profits interfering and costing the Motor City, So, they interfered. Motor City Machine Guns were the ones that were struck. So DIY technically wins. And then it just fell flat because it had to, Cole had to go out of his way to explain to the viewer the logic of why, they have issue with DIY, but they attacked Motor City Machine Guns, which I guess makes some sort of sense, But
if your announcer has to go that far out of his way to explain what just happened in your booking, there's some problems with your booking at that point.
100%. This one we predicted last week could be a show stealer, but it was the booking and then the placement that took a decent match. I mean, the action was decent, but it took it down several notches for me. In hindsight, if this was the way they were going to go with the whole thing, it would have been better just to have a regular match as a single fall. If you're going to go that interference route, because why add layers of complexity with Michael Cole having to explain why things are happening if you already have a complex stipulation of 2 out of 3 falls to get there? Just do a 1 fall match and have your interference, and then it still would have fallen flat, but it would have been less flat than the long road to get to that bad ending.
And also, this is a pay-per-view. I expect these run-in things in on TV. I want resolution to things at my pay-per-views, especially when we
especially
got
one of the
four.
big fours, especially one of the
Yes,
big four pay-per-views.
yes. This should be
Crowd wasn't
something where
having it
there's
either.
no, no. I mean, these teams are great. You know, all three teams involved here. Great teams, great athletes, great entertainers. Just got caught up in some convoluted Vince Russo type booking or something here. I didn't quite understand why this match was not firing the way I thought it should. Then I realized, well, they've kind of got this ending that's going to fizzle things out anyway. So,
And I know we have a while to go, but if we want to talk again on the grand picture of Mania implications, I'm just sitting here thinking about it when you said all three teams involved. It was like, yeah, there's
mhm,
three teams involved.
yeah,
And they love to do the multi-person tag team matches at Mania to get as many people on the
hmm
card as possible. I'd say then you can maybe expect not just these three teams going at it, but as a background member of all of this leading up to TV, you have Pretty Deadly. You could have a four-team
hmm
Mania match, which I would prefer a one-on-one contest with somebody, but this could
same.
be the way they get a bunch of folks on the card.
Yeah, yeah, could be.
This next match felt like a pay-per-view match, though.
My goodness, there
Undisputed
were.
heavyweight championship, man. Cody Rhodes, your champion, and Kevin Owens in a stellar ladder match. Just stellar ladder match.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I,
Can we
I thought
talk
it was
before the action, though? Can we say that you and I? But actually, I'm kind of disappointed with your collection that you do not yet own a Canadian Dream Son of a Security Systems Technician T-shirt.
it's on the way.
Come on, man, that is too. I mean, I don't care how many times he wears it. I will laugh every
Yes,
time.
every time. I love that shirt.
It should be said that the crowd was back into it from the start of this one. So it really was just the tag match they checked out of. Both performers
Hmm
obviously fed off of that energy and ratcheted up
Oh,
the intensity to a extreme degree. And some could argue maybe too much intensity, for sure. Things I liked was Cody removing the ladder rung and then beating KO
hmm
with it. That was great. The backdrop that KO took onto the corner of the ladder was the first big,
I
owie
know.
moment of the night.
Uh,
Um, in a
and
match
and
that could have used a little bit of levity, the mini ladder was a moment of levity.
I love the baby laughter. That was hilarious.
Oh, can we talk about that fisherman's buster from the top rope though onto that
Dude,
elevated
okay,
ladder,
that
man?
I thought at that point Cody had actually went unconscious. I thought
Yeah,
KO had KO'd him legitimately with
yeah,
that.
yes. And then, though, when they showed the replay repeatedly, I started to question, wait a minute, maybe KO actually got the worst of that because we're
Hmm
focusing on the guy who's supposed to be taking the bump. But then on the replay, you see, I think Kevin Owens hit his head on the ladder on the way down.
Yes.
It just looked really brutal for both men.
It was such it gets into that train wreck territory. You know, thank God it wasn't like like an 8-person ladder match or something because those are just like spot fest and train wrecks over and over and over. This had, these just incredibly brutal spots where, you just cringe at you when you see it happen.
Well, I thought that Fisherman Buster would, without a doubt, be the spot of the night, spot of the match. And then
Oh
came what
no.
may have been even more brutal.
Oh no.
That reversal on the outside, man, where that's this brought the match to its conclusion. Cody gave KO the Alabama slam from the announce table through an elevated ladder, and KO landed on his head and then stayed like that, like a champ, for like 15 minutes, selling it post match, even as Cody climbs the ladder and retains the championship. While KO remains on his head with
It's
Sammy
on
checking
his
on him.
head. It looked like he had lost his head at some point. It was rolling around ringside.
Sammy
Somebody find him.
just like in tears
I,
almost, like.
I know that just looked so brutal.
And even Cody
Oh,
coming back around and like
hmm
while celebrating, still like checking on him, which I know was scripted, but still looked like,
hmm
I mean, after all the KO was done to Kevin Owens, storyline wise, he would have no reason to check on him. But you want to make your good look guy look like a truly good guy. Have him conflicted as to, hey, Sammy, is he okay? Is he
I
going to be
know,
all right? Kind
Sammy,
of thing.
Sammy.
I
Yeah.
mean, that was really cool. That was good. Well done. We had brutality. We had blood. We have some limited blading back in WWE. This was an effective use of. I think it was
Hmm.
warranted in a contest like this. We had drama. I'm sure we also have scrapes, bruises, headaches, everything else going on with these two men
Hmm.
today. A great match, though. Just great match. The outcome we expected, but also
Yeah,
great match.
great match. Great. Yeah, yeah.
We'll talk a little bit more at the end here about obviously where some of these men go, because all of it might tie into what happens in our final match of the
Hmm.
night, where we're going to talk about. Let's talk the men's Royal Rumble match. Again, we'll go beginning to end here, hitting some highlights. We start off 1 and 2, Rey Mysterio and Penta out. Great way to start. Two of the greatest
Yes,
luchadors of all time, and let's showcase them. What'd you think about that?
I thought it was great. I was going to get something to drink, and I was like, let me see who's coming out with Ray. And I was like, oh, Pent is coming out. I'm going to stay right here for a while. I'll go grab a drink in just a second.
Now, did Penta's feet touch?
We might talk about that a little bit later, but yes, both Penta's feet did touch. Come on,
The
man.
announcers went out of their way to say, the refs are there, they're closer than we are, they're calling it 1 foot, but they did not show a replay, which was really
No,
telling.
they
There
did
was
not.
no replay. And they
They
didn't
did
do the whole
not.
spot where, well, if accidents happen, you have to call what you see. They didn't go with what we saw. They went with a no phantom like air underneath one toe or something. I don't know.
Like, come on, Penta. I know you've been playing AEW arenas for a while, and maybe 60,000 plus people have you a little freaked out, and you got a little bit of
Yeah.
nerves. But come
Hey,
on,
no,
you're
that actually is worth pointing out. Like Penta
yeah.
might have been in the business for a while, but he's never played in front of that many fans before, ever. And he's
Hmm.
still new to
Absolutely,
WWE. It was obvious he was nervous in his
absolutely.
Netflix debut. He could still be nervous in his first pay-per-view, especially one like Rumble in a very noteworthy opening spot when all eyes are on you.
And you're in there with
You're in with
Ray.
Ray.
Um,
You're in with Ray, the greatest luchador
yeah,
of all time. I mean,
right?
it was still cool despite that. They recovered from that. Later
Absolutely.
on, I did like the spot where you have a bunch of luchadors in the ring and you get Santos
Yes.
doing the 619 on Ray, only for Ray to turn around, get it back on Santos. We had a comedy portion, which, the Rumble tends to make room for some comedy. When Tozawa was taken out by Carmelo before he even had a chance to enter the ring. And then social media star I Show Speed took his place. And then takes a brutal spear by Braun Breaker
Oh
before
God.
Braun eliminated him.
Just like I thought Cody killed KO, I thought Breaker killed ISO Speed. Just snapped him in half. But that wasn't the end of that. Then Otis tried to kill.
And then like 8 billion followers or something of I Show Speed, who I honestly don't know, but apparently half the world follows the dude and was watching as he was live streaming all of this at the
Yeah.
same time. So you see why WWE does it. Triple H said as much in the post-show press conference that WWE has always had entertainers and entertainment, but the
Hmm.
idea of who a celebrity is now and who moves the needle now
Yeah,
changes. And
absolutely it does.
he's not wrong. And I can't fault them for putting an iShow Speed in for a few minutes that are inconsequential if it means you get a couple million eyes on the product that you wouldn't have otherwise. It makes perfect sense.
And I gotta say, kudos to WWE for the choice of celebrities that they do bring in. Aside from that train wreck that was Johnny Knoxville and the rest of the Jackass crew versus Sammy, was that a WrestleMania? I think.
It was
But aside
WrestleMania.
aside from that, all their celebrities that they brought in recently are fairly athletic. I really knew
Yeah.
nothing about
Hey,
ISO Speed, but my 9-year-old schooled me on Speed real quick and talked about how athletic he actually is, and then he just does that jumping
at the
backflip
flip.
and stuff. I'm like, okay, this kid can bump. He's a little athletic, so and and bump he
And
did.
he bumped hard for Braun Breaker, who, kudos to iShow Speed for just taking that spear.
Yes.
You couldn't pay me enough to do that. Um,
No, and then Breaker throws him out. Otis catches him and just does the backward slam. to the
Yeah.
table.
Oh yeah. At first I thought, okay, Otis is going to give the celebrity an easy landing by catching him.
Nope.
No. Which
No,
also
sir.
made sense. I mean, Tozawa is Otis's partner, and
Yep.
Show Speed took his place. So no, he's not going to help him. That makes sense.
No. Huh? You're not
I
taking my
like the
buddy's
logic
spot.
there.
Absolutely. And Michael Cole didn't have to explain that one.
Then comes lucky number or unlucky, I guess, number 13 for the rest of the field, Jacob Fatu. And as we predicted, Fatu was given the role of monster this year. His
Mm-hmm.
number of eliminations actually ended up being equal to Roman, who we'll get to here in a little bit. But Fatu's spots were spaced out, and he was in longer. It's definite that as far as the impression of who the heavy was in this year's match, I would give it more to Jacob than I would to Roman. But the announcers helped sell that too, of like this being the most dangerous man, this being the dark horse. They played it up perfect.
Absolutely.
We finally got the TNA crossover we did not get in the women's match.
Yep.
And that was TNA World Champion Joe Hendry. Someone must have said his name because he appeared. Emerging to a huge pop, again, showing that maybe the broader wrestling community might not know who some of these Impact stars are, but the hardcore wrestling fans that show up for the big events, they know who these people
They definitely know. Okay, just a little side note here, talking about hardcore wrestling fans. I found myself a lot last night in the women's and the men's Royal Rumble hearing the music, and I will always pop for the music. I feel a little bit disconnected from everybody's music now because I'm like, I'm not sure who that is. I've got to see them come out now, except for like five people. Yeah, okay.
So I think that they might have also used the opportunity to introduce new music for some folks, because I'm like,
who's that?
That's Finn Balor's music? I don't think that's Finn Balor's music. Has that always been Finn Balor's music? What is that music? So I think they might have not done themselves a favor with some of those. But yeah, I was the same. I'm like, okay, the music's going. Is this a surprise? Should I know this? I don't know this.
Exactly. And you see, oh, that's who it is.
It was nice to see Joe Hendry. I thought that was one of the legit, like, good surprises from this one as far as entrants go. I know we called it last week as a possibility, but it was still cool to see happen. And surprising they didn't do that on the women's side, but at least they knew to put Hendry in there on the men's. I know we mentioned Roman earlier, that he was tied for most eliminations. Let's talk Roman's role in this. I was surprised to see him come in as early as number 16. But then I did love the foreshadowing of the future showdown that will happen between him and Fatu. They finally got physical, which is something that they had avoided for a while, to sell the main bloodline versus new bloodline storyline. But it was a very intense, if brief, teaser for the future.
It was great. It was great.
While we're on the while we're on the topic of Roman moments, even though Roman ended up eliminating Braun, I did like that Braun beat Roman to the punch on that spear, which was quite the moment for the young breaker, and then planted another possible seed for a future contest that people will want to see, and that is a Roman Reigns Braun Breaker match at some point in time.
Yeah, a lot of teasing going on there, and a
lot of teasing.
Lots.
Other spots I like, Doug. I like the Penta and Finn working together on that cool-looking Mexican destroyer that Penta had on Jacob Fatu. We also got the return of AJ Styles for the first time since the fall of last year.
With his old school music, which I recognized. And
his old school gear. Like that was the gear that he wore, or something similar to what he wore when he made his WWE debut in Royal Rumble. Crowd was still into AJ. There was a big pop for his return. Let's talk some other returns and or surprises before we get to how this one all shakes out at the end. We should note that unlike the women's match, there were 0 additions of NXT talent. 0. Which I know the women's roster is stacked more so on NXT right now, but still, I know it's a stacked Rumble right now. We had a star-heavy men's Royal Rumble match, but you could have pulled out a Ludwig or a Santos just to give some exposure to Obafemi or Trick Williams. I was very surprised. Just my 2 cents. They should have put at least one NXT man in the main
I
in that
did
ring.
did really expect, Obafemi to be there somewhere, but
And there were no legends, no
no.
legends returns, which obviously that's something that sometimes happen in the women's match. There were no surprise debuts, so there wasn't the
Mhm.
shocking, oh my gosh, it's Ricky Starks or Malachi Black is back.
I was thinking, maybe Black shows up. Maybe we get Black, but we
No,
didn't.
second straight year too that we got no Rock. So
Hmm.
I know that we talked last week that if they put him in, that means that he's probably going to be around the road to WrestleMania. The fact that they did not put him in, I think that it pretty much confirms that we should not expect to have The Rock involved at WrestleMania this year.
Nope, those live action Moana shoots are taking longer than expected, apparently.
Back to the match itself, Doug, because I mean it was great beginning to end, but it really begins to pick up for me. I think at number 23 we get John Cena
Hmm.
and his beginning of his farewell year, and this was the kickoff to the final chapter of this match, which was WWE leaning heavy on the star power that they've been advertising and
Hmm.
flexing its muscles, honestly, showing you know. How they can layer multiple stories in just by the sheer amount of talent in the ring, because
Yes.
immediately after 23, 24, you had CM Punk, 25, you had Seth Rollins. You add those folks to the people that were already in the ring that hadn't been eliminated, and you had something like 6 or 7 world champions and future Hall of Famers, it should be added, in the ring at the same time. The history between all of the men that were in the ring, the various stories and everything, helped to weave a dramatic narrative in this match's final back half that I thought the women's match lacked. The men's match had
Absolutely.
it in spades there at
Yeah, it
the end.
did. Yeah, it totally did. Totally. Yeah, I
Um,
love that moment, like right before Rollins comes out, where they're all just kind of like standing around, look at each other. It's like, we're going to throw down. It's like, well, no, like, whatever. It's almost like this, them all doing like the Spider-Man meme where everybody's pointing at everybody else. And then it's like Rollins music hits, and they're like, okay, well, now we got this guy. Who's he coming after? And Rollins just hits the ring and goes, wow.
he went wild. Let's talk about some of these finishing sequences. So um, some of the favorites that and the way they got eliminated. Damian Priest eliminated Drew McIntyre, and at first I thought this could be the start of a Mania story. It still might be. It might be a seed planted, but there was also some news coming out, and
Oh, yeah.
yeah, some backstage speculation
Hmm.
on whether or not Drew was legit upset. Apparently, reportedly, he stormed out and saying things about like somebody had to get all their moves in. Let's talk about this for a moment, because Doug, this isn't the first time that there's been a story
No.
about Drew storming out, and last time it was over CM Punk, and that was one
Uh-huh.
that was a shoot that they then turn it into
Then
a great work. Is that what's happening here, or are they just working us from the get go?
right
That
now,
Drew has this reputation.
so you have the established, you have past precedent, right? With him storming out before. So it's reasonable that this could happen again if he gets mad enough or whatever. But then, after reading so much and Triple H putting out that out there about Alexa Bliss, and just everybody, including us, gobbling it up that, well, we're not going to get Alexa. They couldn't get a contract agreement. I question everything once again, which, as a good old school Mark, we actually should be questioning everything.
I feel like this is a work, but I'm all for it. I think that they could have a good down card match on one of the nights of WrestleMania if that's the way
Hmm.
they're going with this.
And
Um,
it's just ambiguous enough to say, well, okay, who had to get their moves in? You know,
yeah, no, that's
who
true
is this
too. It doesn't
person?
necessarily mean it was Priest.
No, exactly, exactly. It's just who eliminated him, but who really had to get their moves in.
Let's also give Devil his due. Number 30, Logan Paul comes in. Devil his due athleticism. The spot where he ended up
Hmm.
on the table without getting eliminated, got on the railing, made his way back to the stairs, made his way in, and then doused fans' excitement by eliminating AJ. All of that was just
Hmm.
great heel work. I mean, it just is great heel work. Whatever you think of Logan Paul, you can't deny that you want to
Hmm.
punch him in the face and see him punched in the face.
Great
And
heel.
the dude is athletic. So, I mean, it was inserting him in to be like the little bit of that spoiler role at the end that no one wanted to see win was kind of cool.
Mhm. It was. It really was.
And even more shocking, really, I guess, than Paul eliminating AJ, maybe that Paul was the one that eliminated maybe the match favorite in a lot of people's minds. Definitely the fan
Hmm.
favorite
Oh
in
yeah.
the CM Punk was eliminated by Logan Paul after Punk himself had eliminated the other two favorites that
Yes.
were in Roman and Seth at the same time. So the final four, Doug, that we predicted, those four did make it into the final six. They just didn't make it into the final four.
No.
Um, so your final three that we have in the ring is Cena, Uso, and Paul. At this point, I thought it was going to go the way of the women's match, where all the drama happened actually before
Hmm.
the end, and now it was going to become too predictable, being
Yeah.
obvious. But WWE did not go that route.
No. No, they did not.
After Paul's welcomed elimination, Uso and Cena fought it out, and the crowd ate it up. They were just not really favoring one over the other. I think that if the needle tilted one way, it would have been Cena's direction, but they were into both men. There were nice teases on
Hmm.
the apron that could have really gone wrong in a number of
Yes.
ways. And then Cena fails on an attempted attitude adjustment. Jay just gives him a little shove to
Just
the
a
floor,
nice little shove.
wins the
Cena just
match,
lands gingerly,
and set
disappointed.
the wrestling internet on fire in divisiveness from that moment on.
Yes. So let's talk a bit about this win. All
Yeah,
right.
let's break it
Because
down.
so I totally understand from a corporate point of view because main event Jay is hot. He's a hot merch seller. Everybody is yeeting to his song when he's going through the audience when he comes down. He has folks eating out of the palm of his hand. But for me, I've really never thought, and I hate to say this, of main event Jey Uso as a main event guy. I have a hard time getting that over. Uh, I'm not saying,
So let's, on a micro level, I thought the Rumble match itself was phenomenal, and the ending
mhm,
was truly shocking. The ending was
mhm,
truly shocking. So that's the good news. The debatable news is what you're saying, and that's the bigger picture and what it means for Mania. I'm actually not even opposed to main event Jey Uso becoming a main eventer. He sells a lot
yeah,
of merchandise.
mhm,
His catchphrases are over, whatever you think of them. But despite his being over, is this the right time and the right choice to put him in a situation to main event WrestleMania? Let's not forget last year he and his brother had the worst
yes,
match
worst
of both
match.
nights. So I like Jay. I just don't know that I'm terribly excited by a Gunther Jay match, considering we already saw Gunther win that one just a few weeks ago, and it was just an okay match. And I also don't see Jay Cody as the destination or
Mm-mm.
being a match that fans would be terribly excited in. So do we think that it's Gunther that we have for Jay, or do we think that Gunther, who appears to have lost some steam and some favor in WWE, to be honest,
Mhm.
do we think that they switched the title off of him before Mania to give Jay maybe a more exciting matchup? Because yes, I thought the shock was great. Sometimes it's good to swerve
Right.
this and not go the expected route like they did with Charlotte. So that part on a micro level, it worked. On a larger, big picture level, I don't
Mhm.
think either possibility that Jay Uso has in front of him now feels like a WrestleMania main event.
Mm-mm. No, no, I don't either. Because I'm really wondering if Gunther drops, like you said, if Gunther drops that belt somewhere before WrestleMania, and then it's Jay and somebody else more palpable, more more of a draw.
It feels in some ways like it's almost Jay's time, like they were anointing him, and it's only a matter of time before they make him a world champion. But
Hmm.
I don't know. I guess time will be the final arbitrator of this one as to whether or not this was a good decision or not. As we mentioned earlier with the Tiffany Stratton Charlotte matchup, is you got a couple of months to build this story. They have a couple of
Mm-hmm.
months to take naysayers or doubters like
Sure.
us and turn us into believers. Like, I'm excited for this match between Jay and whomever it ends up being. But right now, I don't see it.
I mean, clearly there is a lot of fan support for Jay. I mean, he
Yeet.
gets a pop. Exactly. I have no idea what that means. I thought it meant throw something, but apparently no. But just, yeah, I don't. I personally just don't. He's not over with me, and maybe that's a little bit of my brain just
Tag
trying
team
to work
bias,
through
and
it.
like he's still I like him as a tag team. I like him as a
Yes.
soldier.
Yes.
I'm not sold on him main eventing WrestleMania, the biggest show of
No.
the year.
No, and I think, just like John Cena's last Royal Rumble, John Cena's last chance, last WrestleMania, that's where I'm thinking Cena should, if he's going to go for 17, which at this
So
point, I have really mixed feelings about that too.
let's get into some of this then. Let's talk beyond the winner and look at the other
Sure.
stories and mania paths created by this, very complex story that they told the Royal Rumble. It would seem Seth and Roman are set to build on their decades-long feud now by starting they started with the Shield breaking up a decade ago. They may extend that to a triple threat with Punk in the mix, as we had an intense encounter on the outside with all three of
Yeah,
them.
we did. I'm pretty sure, just like, Cody and Kevin got killed earlier in the night, that first curb stomp to Roman, I thought it was
Oh
a
my
two-footed.
gosh.
I thought he came down. I came up out of the chair. I was like, "Oh, what is he doing?" And then I had to see like a slow motion replay from another angle. I'm like, "Okay, that's just one. His other leg is on the floor. Seth is just that good, and so is Roman. That it looks like he comes down with both feet. It like,
If that's the way they're going, that is a Mania match. I buy that as a Mania match. You have a history
yeah,
there. You had that intense moment there. You can play off both those things, and I'd buy it as a WrestleMania destination for the two
yes,
men. And I'd even buy it if you threw the Punk into that mix as a triple threat. But there's another way that they could go with Punk, and that is the unspoken favor owed to him by
hmm
Paul Heyman. And it was Punk who eliminated Paul's client, which could be a storyline complication there,
hmm
or another way to get Punk into that three-way with Roman. It also could be, when we talk about destinations, it could be Punk leveraging Paul's history with another client, should they decide to dare bring back Brock Lesnar, despite the baggage that could bring. It would be a marquee match that we have not seen. Either way they go, it is apparent that Punk will need at least one, maybe more year before he's like the main event going for a title.
hmm Yeah, I don't think Lesnar will happen this year since he was officially named in that McMahon lawsuit now.
It would be a bad timing with that
It would
lawsuit still.
definitely be. Yeah.
What do you think the favor is? What do you think is being asked?
See, I don't know because I was watching some stuff today, and there's some speculation that maybe Punk tries to leverage Jay to do like Cody tried to do last year, and I'm like, no, they're not going to do that twice. They're not going to do that twice in a row, where the favor is called in, and if it were Jimmy, sure. Jimmy would follow through with what the tribal chief said to do. Jay's not going to do that, so I don't think that's even reasonable. That tries to call that in and have the tribal chief, say, hey, you need to give that to Punk because we owe him.
It's also
Don't see it.
apparent that what we're not going to see is Rock and Reigns. The Rock Reigns is not happening this year. Neither is
No.
Fatu Reigns. Solo was
Mhm.
absent from all of this. It's clear that it's not necessarily all that clear where the new bloodline and its members go from here. I don't know what their path is
Mhm.
because it's obvious that Roman is going to be entangled with Seth and maybe Punk. And so the Fatu Reigns match is probably still something that is further down the line.
Mhm.
Drew Priest looks like a possibility
Yeah.
for Mania. Here's one that was more subtle. I want to throw at you. Since
Okay.
Sammy was conflicted during the Cody KO
Yes.
match. He didn't actually get involved. He didn't help either. He didn't pick a side, but that also means that KO was not physically able to help Sammy as he promised he would do in the Rumble. So if KO
Hmm.
decides he's blaming Sammy for his inaction and cost him that match, we could refuel that always under the surface
The
love-hate
eternal.
relationship between Sammy and KO. They always deliver when they are on opposing sides. You could get one of those classic Owen Zayn matches, except this time elevated to the biggest possible platform and stage possible with a WrestleMania match.
So I would not be opposed to that, but I've wondered if what Cody was doing, where I think it's Cody being Cody and swinging back around to check uh, on KO to make sure he didn't actually kill him since he was selling so well and had not moved in quite a while. It almost comes off like Cody's almost gloating over the whole situation too, right? Especially the way the shot is framed. So it looks just the way the shot is framed when Cody's on the table, and, just kind of coming down, looking down on everybody, kind of like lording over everybody. And he went to like an ultraviolet place too. I would love to see a heel Cody. Don't know if we can get it, but a heel Cody versus a babyface Sami Zayn who thinks that Cody has now gone too far is, and now
That's
Sammy's
another way.
the only one here who can stop him. I think that would be a very interesting story to tell. And then you get a redemption arc from KO coming back, realizing what all this that he had done, and maybe even being so banged up that he can't actually perform at WrestleMania, but he can be, with Sammy, along the way.
Of course, we do have another pay-per-view. They could blow that one off, whether it's
Yeah.
KO Sammy or Sammy Cody, because I'm not sure that's a Mania main event. Maybe it is with
Hmm.
some time, or they could
Yeah.
blow that off as a way to wait and draw things out until Mania. Because I think that you'll get one elimination match, and it'll
Hmm.
probably be for Gunther's title. And I am not
Hmm.
convinced because Cody Rhodes is
He's keeping
headlining
it.
WrestleMania with somebody.
This is what I'm
Gunther,
thinking
I'm not.
too.
Gunther is maybe not, and that's where Elimination Chamber might reshuffle the deck a little bit. And that's where I want to get to my final, like where are they headed? Because you were starting to go
Hmm.
there earlier, and I want to
Oh
talk
yeah.
John. I want to talk John Cena. I,
Cena.
I, it's odd to find myself in 2025 actually rooting for Cena and wanting to see this Cinderella story play out here in his final year. But it did lead to some interesting post Royal Rumble comments in the press conference where John Cena, instead of taking questions, was in serious John Cena mode, came out and made a statement instead. And in this statement, he talks about being selfless, always doing whatever's best for business, basically saying that rather than being nice, he's just going to be open and say it, that what is best for business is also selfish. And that is him being the headliner of WrestleMania and winning the world championship at WrestleMania, and therefore declaring himself an entrant into the Elimination Chamber in March.
I love that. I did not see that, but I love that.
So this is a mix
Because
of work and shoot, really, because
yeah.
I do think that Cena headlining Mania in a dream match against Cody Rhodes is way better business than any other combination that includes Jay Uso. No offense to Jay.
Hmm.
I also think we should have maybe seen this coming, even though we both picked Cena to win, because despite Rumble being one way to tell his story, kick off this year of the farewell of John Cena, having Cena come up just short allows him to play that underdog just a little bit longer, and now
Hmm.
it gives a hook immediately to Elimination Chamber. As soon as he's saying all that, I'm like, oh yeah, we should have seen that. Like that makes a
Yeah,
lot of business sense.
it does. It does.
Do you
Yeah.
think that Cena is destined to still be a headliner at WrestleMania? It is his farewell year. He has to have a big match at Mania. It is his final Mania. Is that match a world title match? Do we think that there's still him getting in despite coming just short by doing it at the Rumble?
I want to think there is that because in my mind, Cena, his last WrestleMania, not necessarily his last shot at hitting at grabbing that 17th title, right? As surpassing the legend that is Ric Flair. But, it's not if not WrestleMania, you could draw that out for, quite a bit longer because we've got till December, right?
We
But
do.
I don't. I think the big match, the big money match, is John Cena at least going for, if not already defending that
Yeah,
title at WrestleMania.
yeah. I think that it's your one shot at a dream match of Cena Rhodes, and I don't know that Rhodes wouldn't win that match. And Cena's story continues on that quest because he does have the rest of the year to go. But he has to be in a marquee match at Mania, and the man spelled it out for us. He said the quiet part out loud. What is best for business is the greatest of all time versus your current greatest. That is the money
Hmm.
match. He's right.
Yeah.
Let's see, right?
Yeah.
I know we're going long, but that is
Yeah.
Royal Rumble. Let's get to our big finish, Doug, because we
There,
got a lot to talk about.
there was a lot to unpack in this whole WrestleMania road to kickoff show, which is basically what Royal Rumble is. It's the kickoff. It starts the road to WrestleMania.
What was your botch from this past
You know,
week of wrestling?
I'm just gonna call it out for what it is, man. Penta's feet touch the ground. I love Penta. It's okay. I don't mind. I don't mind everybody covering for it. It worked. It's gonna happen. Yeah, I always get nervous when I see those spots where people are like, what is that? Skin in the cat? Is that what it's called? Where they're just hanging on. And I'm always worried somebody's gonna touch the ground anyway. But they set the precedent for
Yeah.
that. Where I said, oh wait, only one of Shawn Michaels' feet touched the floor. So
Yep.
the best of the best have done it before, so I got no problems with it. But I'm staying light this week because it was such a great rumble. Penta touching the ground.
So I'm going to go a little heavier and a little more meta, and it's going to be old man ranting at clouds here because what I'm about to go off on is first world problems, I know, and that is ticketing for wrestling
Oh, oh,
concerts, sporting events, etc. It's broken. So Rumble was close enough to where I live that I wanted to attend. I'd gone to SummerSlam over the summer, had a blast. I paid the most I had ever paid for a ticket to anything, but had the time of my life. I sat within 20 rows at ringside. I had it in my mind anyway that I could do the same thing for Rumble. Now, it is on me for not pulling the trigger and buying the many, many tickets I looked at over the last few weeks. I'm not going to complain about my indecisiveness. Ultimately, it's my choice as to whether or not I'm willing to pay the price for whatever it is they are charging. But that is where I'm giving my botch, is exactly what are they charging, not knowing the actual price for the seating that I was looking at. Depending on when I checked, a similar seat to what I had at SummerSlam was either twice the price at Rumble or more than 3 times the price that I had paid for that show in August. There were times I looked that very same section or seat was so expensive that the fees that Ticketmaster would have added were more than what I had paid for my entire ticket at SummerSlam. Ticketing in this country is broken. It's also just a bit disingenuous for Triple H in the post-event press conference to brag about Rumble being the highest gate single night event in WWE
well,
history.
yeah.
Brag about the attendance numbers, which is impressive because I mean they are record setting and they're hot right now. But bragging about your gate is misleading. If I sold you a loaf of bread last week for $1, I sold you the same product this week for $1,000. I have technically broken all the records for the largest gate in the history of this loaf of bread. I'm selling you the same thing. I'm just charging you 8,000 times more. Just tell me what it costs and I will decide whether or not I want to pay it. But the way that dynamic pricing works, I know that this rant, it fixes nothing, but ticketing truly is broken in the way that we sell events right now. And so that is the end of rant.
All right.
Dynamic pricing may be bottom line friendly
Mm,
for the corporation. It is not fan
yeah.
friendly.
No.
Just tell me how much you want for that, and I will decide, yeah, I'm willing to pay it or not.
Yeah.
Don't turn it into a game, which is what it becomes.
No.
Performance or performer of the week, Doug?
I'm gonna go match and performer and just roll it all up in one big old ball here because I will give my performer to KO because I'm pretty sure like I said earlier, he lost his head at some point. Sammy had to put it back on him, and they had to get him out of there. Sammy found it ringside and put it back on him. It was all bloody and battered, but like you said, he sold for like 20 minutes. Like with his, I thought he broke his
Upside,
neck.
Upside down. Yeah, man.
Upside down. I mean, and just a performance all over the place. Just the bumps he took. My goodness, he needs some time off. Let this
He
man heal
does.
for a few weeks.
He does let him heal for a few weeks, but also that performance, let's let it be rewarded with something important to do at
Yes.
Mania, because we don't
Yeah.
know his path. It's not quite as clear, but man, that man has earned whatever role he gets at Mania. It needs to be an important one. I'm with you.
And like I said, I'm just rolling them up in a big old ball here because I've got to give the ladder match, the
That was stud.
performances that Cody and KO both turned in this match. Great.
So
Great.
my performance of the week, I've not seen much written about this online, so I have to call out a little nugget I think that many people missed, and that's because it was buried as an offhanded comment in the first hour of the pre-show last night. But my performance of the week goes to Pat McAfee. During the pre-show's first hour, he was on the panel, and the conversation was for the former wrestlers on the panel to talk about their experience in Royal Rumble. So they were showing tape footage and asking Booker T and Wade Barrett and having them, give commentary to their performance footage and what it was like being in the Rumble. And then they turned to Pat McAfee to ask him about his times in the Rumble. And they queued up the clip from last year when he entered the Rumble as a surprise, getting called up from the announcer's desk. And as they're
Mm-hmm.
showing this, and Pat is live commenting on it, Pat provided the commentary by saying, "And there you see Corey Graves, happy for me as always." Just perfect. Just chef's kiss.
Oh, I
Not
love
anything
it.
else more need to be said. If you didn't know, you didn't register. If you did know, that is fantastic.
I gotta watch more free show. I gotta watch the pre and post
That
shows
was
more
great.
often.
It was great. And then my match of the week, gosh, you couldn't go wrong with your pick. I'm going to go with the men's Rumble match itself. I know
Yeah.
we said at the beginning, and it is true, and it is true of almost all men and women's Rumbles matches we've ever commented on. They're mostly somewhere in the middle. It's very rare you have a classic, or it's very rare you have an outright dud.
Mm-hmm.
Last night, I thought the men's match was as close to perfect. I mean, it was a great men's Royal Rumble match. You can quibble maybe about the who won, a few minor things, but for the most part, no complaints. That men's Rumble match was, as advertised, star-studded, and because it was star-studded and because they had so many stories in there, they have so many possible directions they can
Mm-hmm.
go. They have
So many.
ignited so many possible pathways to other matches that'll happen at either Elimination Chamber or all the way at Mania. It was well constructed and had the pacing and the drama that I thought the women's match lacked both of. I
Mm-hmm.
loved last night's Royal Rumble match. Another reason I was upset that, at the first two matches, I'm like, all right, maybe I'm not so upset I didn't get to go. And then the last two matches happened, and I'm like,
Uh,
daggone it, I could have been there. But that was my match of the week. Doug, I know we have to let the affiliates know we're running long, but
yeah, it's all right.
it's the road to WrestleMania. What can we say?
Absolutely. WrestleMania time. We are officially on that road now.
We are also on that road at the Two Bros Wrestling Show, which leads us into some upcoming topics. You see our schedule rolling there as we head deeper into Mania season. Next week's show, we're going to take a look at the man that came out on top last night in Doug's match of the week, came out on top of Mania last year. How do we view Cody Rhodes' reign and his rise to the top of WWE? We do know that next week there's a little football game going on, so we are going to be dropping next week. We won't be live next week. We'll be dropping
Yeah.
our next week episode early on Sunday, so you can pregame with us before you get your football on, get your wrestling in by joining the Two Bros Wrestling Show.
Go sports ball.
Until then.
Go watch some wrestling, everybody. Thanks for watching.